Europeans of Reddit, what do Americans have every day that you see as a luxury?
The massive houses, like having a special room just for your massive washer and dryer units, 2-car garage, basically you have tons of space. I second it, space, space, space. America is crazy enormous.
The ability to get free refills on drinks.
Personally for me it's the fact that you can pretty much choose to live in any climate you like when you live in the USA and still be in the same country. If you like 4 seasons, then move to the Northeast. If you like humid ocean climate, move to Seattle. If you like dry warm weather, move to Los Angeles. If you like deserts, move to Arizona. If you like warm and humid weather, move to the Southeast. As a German who loves warm weather, I am always jealous because of those options. If I wanted to try to move somewhere warm, I would have to move to a new country and learn a whole new language like Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, French, Greek or other Southern European languages.
I love the extensive national parks.
Disability access everywhere. I can go to any place, theater, store, office, school, whatever, with confidence that I'll be able to navigate fine in my wheelchair. They'll have ramps and/or elevators.
Using air conditioning. The Americans pump it all summer long, oh my god.
Used to be 24-hour stores and restaurants, but that kind of went away with COVID.
Huge schools with labs and gyms and theaters.
Backyards. I'd plant so many vegetables.
The 2 most peaceful neighbors ever, Mexico and Canada.
Free use of bathrooms.
The space in general everywhere.
I'm a Canadian who just returned from a trip visiting Grand Canyon, Zion, and Vegas. Our last few trips were in Europe. I am American, as mentioned elsewhere. I liked the free drink refills and plentiful bathrooms, clean too. They were a nice change. The American National Park system just blows all others out of the water, including Canada's. I'm especially embarrassed about BC's provincial parks. People love to complain that tourists are gross, but the American parks were just as busy, but actually had maintained facilities and people who, you know, work to maintain the parks. I didn't see any TP on any of the trails in the US. Meanwhile, I have PTSD from Garibaldi trails last summer.
I'm surprised no one has mentioned a nice shower. Not everywhere in Europe is the same, but far too often showering is a chore instead of a relaxing experience.
Free public bathrooms for the win.
Big kitchens and big refrigerators/freezers. Even in my student apartment, we had a pretty good-sized kitchen. I was dating a Czech girl and her parents came to visit. When they went to my apartment for a dinner, the mom was just amazed at the size of my fridge. They were amused when I dumped the scraps in the sink and turned on the garbage disposal. They'd heard about it but had never seen one.
Ice makers in the freezer? LOL, what a luxury.
American here visiting Germany right now. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say fuel cost. The station down the road here sell petrol for €1.75 per liter. That's about $7.20 per gallon if my math is correct. For comparison, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona and just paid $2.85 per gallon last week, which is about €0.75 per liter. Gas is even cheaper than that in the Midwest US.
I like the certified fresh air in America. It's illegal to smoke in restaurants, for example.
There seems to be more nature in the US.
Salaries. Not European, but my friends abroad are all flabbergasted by the salaries here.
Steak is way cheaper in USA.
Air conditioners, it's hot here in Spain. Edit, I'm referring to the type of AC that is like whole house AC. I have a window AC and, yeah, everyone has those. But I haven't seen many centralized AC units where I am. Should have been more specific, sorry.
American here, but I've heard that they don't have garbage disposals in their sinks over there. I use mine every day and can't imagine life without it.
One thing I really noticed is the lack of escapism in Europe. You want to go on a long drive to clear your mind? Well, there's nowhere really to go. You're always going to find yourself in pretty well-developed areas. It's hard to find true serenity or wilderness. On a related note, yes, there's traffic in America, but once you're out of the cities and on open road, good lord, nothing even remotely compares in Europe. Driving is just way more pleasant in the US. There's a reason Americans would prefer a long drive over a long train trip, but vice versa in Europe. In Europe, they also have tons of speed cameras, so you're constantly on edge looking down at your speedo to make sure you're compliant. Americans are anything but compliant.
I think of the sport facilities in high school movies. 10 things I hate about you, for example. It must be amazing and super cool to play in those places with the whole school cheering on a Friday night. Kissing the cheerleader after scoring a touchdown. In Europe, you play on some random soccer field with a random team in front of 7 parents and 1 alcoholic. No connection to anything or any money invested in anything unless you play for the best team in the city. But by then we are talking about the biggest teams that you see in Champions League and other European tournaments. And that's 1/1015 years old who plays for those teams.
Money, money, and money. Americans will swear up and down how poor they are, but they have much higher purchasing power. Whatever they'll want to buy, it'll always mean less to them than other people. Their pennies in the couch/laundry/car will always mean more. Of course, in terms of products with internationally rather stable cost like electronics, cars, trips, any luxuries, fandom merch, event tickets, experimental surgeries abroad, etc. I don't mean things like food or rent, which always depend on the location and will usually eat up more or less similar percentage of your monthly budget. In effect, when you account for wage and cost of living, luxuries, which usually have similar prices around the world, are proportionally cheaper for Americans. They make up less of their wage and therefore make less of a difference. Standard of living is completely different for a working-class American, because they can afford luxuries people from working class in other countries can't.
Real Mexican food. We have Mexican restaurants in my home country, but the owners are usually not Mexican, and it's just not the same. Now, I'm living in Japan, and it's the same problem. Mexican food is so delicious.
Europeans cannot comprehend how much better American vented clothes dryers are. There is a reason nobody in the US line dries their clothes. American dryers dry everything perfectly on low temperature, unlike ventless dryers which just kinda heat the clothes up. The dryer in the average American home is better than the ones in Europeans' laundromats.
24/7 hot water. Lots of older places especially have hot water on timers to limit energy use. Instead of sealed insulated cylinders, they used open-air cisterns in the attic, garages, closets, really storage space of any kind. Home hobbies are much rarer for it as there's nowhere to have a workshop. Even Christmas decorations are comparatively rarer for want of places to store them. Outlets in the bathroom. Can't dry your hair in there. Edit for clarity. This is Ireland, similar to UK. Storage and outlet issues are true even in new builds. Hot water cisterns haven't been a thing in decades, but the housing stock is old and many places haven't yet been upgraded. Even where they have, timers are ingrained and electricity expensive, so they're still common.
Freedom of speech is far broader. I'm the American, but my British friend is envious of the plethora of big-name anime conventions with big guests who are relatively easy to meet.
Cheap benzene. Please Americans, stop complaining about a gas price that really is not that expensive if you compare it to here.
This was probably said before, but I like that America has all types of climate and natural wonders in one country. You like mountains? Go west. Beaches? Most important cities are seaside. Like cold regions? We bought Alaska from Russians some time ago. Desert? Got you covered. Canyons, waterfalls, geysers, forests. All in one country speaking one language using one currency.
The national parks, access to hunting, and AC.
For me, it's 3 things. How spacious everything is, like homes, roads, parks, etc. The low level of population density. How cheap gas and cars are.
Just driving up to the curb and parking without first circling around the block 10 times, and then finally parallel park, barely squeezing between the bumpers of 2 other cars.
Winter fresh chewing gum. Haven't found a gum as good anywhere else. Houses and lawn space are ridiculously big. Like pointlessly big. I actually have a theory that that's why they all speak so loud. It's because they have to shout across 2 or 3 rooms by default.
What do I think? Apparently the opposite of many people here, because I would give up everything mentioned in this post for healthy, affordable food, liberal work, life balance policy, and universal free healthcare.
Surprised no one's mentioned the easy access to high-quality medicine. Of course, that's a double-edged sword.
I'm Australian, but I will say the college culture. If what we see in American shows and movies is true, but here in Australia, if you want to further your education, you go to a university after high school, you go to your classes and leave. There's barely any universities that are even sport-oriented despite us being one of the greatest sporting nations. In America, it seems like they have so much pride and culture surrounding their colleges, with big bands and such.